Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within special operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health, intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
For your post assignment, all units proceed to your post assignment.
They told us fall in line, stay inside the frame, but some of us were built a little different in the game. From battlefields to boardrooms, from the dark into the light, we carry every scar, but we're still standing upright. Different roads, same fire, same will to rise. Every story earned, no need for the skies. We've been broke and rebuilt, learn to listen and lead. Turn pain into purpose, adversity into creed. If you've ever felt lost like you didn't belong, this is where the outliers prove the world wrong. We are the Misfit Nation. Voices unchained, from the struggle to the strain, through the pressure and pain. Every setback speak, every story's a flame. We don't fit the mold, we were born to change the game. Yeah, we rise, we heal, we really refine our station. Welcome to the truth, this is the Misfit Nation. Veterans and visionaries, dreamers and doors, first responders, builders and resilient survivors. Faith in the climb, mindset forged in a storm, turning hard lessons lived into wisdom reborn. Microphone open, no filters, no fear, real conversations you don't always hear. From fitness to faith, from business to scars, we measure success by who we are. If your past tried to tell you you'll never be enough, this is proof that the climb is what makes you tough. We are the Misfit Nation. Voices unchained, from the struggle to the strength, through the pressure and pain. Every setback speaks, every story's a flame. We don't fit the mold, we were born to change the game. something you feel. If you're searching for hope or a reason to fight, you'll find it right here in the long dark night. You're not alone. You never will. We are the Misfit Nation. Built through the fire, every fall fuel the climb, every loss with the wire. From the ashes we speak, from the truth we remain. Misfits by label, but
Woo! Welcome back to the Misfit Nation, our new opening song brought to you by David Willis. Thank you for bringing that to us for 2026 and season 6. This is our first episode of season 6 and the first episode of 2026. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for collecting your frequent flyer miles. They do round up. You don't lose them as the years go on, like in the Hilton Honors or National Rent-A-Car. We are a loyal subscriber service, and you're one of us. So thank you for being here. If your teams won this weekend, good on you. The Giants did beat the Cowboys. Great day for us. Of course, we wait till the end of the year to win 2 games in a row and fall out of the top draft choice. But we didn't need a number 1 pick anyway. We'll find someone good in that top 10. If your team is in the playoffs going forward, good luck to you. If your team's in the college football playoffs, top 4, keep fighting, keep pushing forward. Don't lose friends over it. Tonight, we have a great guest. I'm joined by a man whose life reads like a masterclass in resilience. He has built, broken, rebuilt, and reinvented himself across nearly 4 decades of entrepreneurship. He survived cancer, completed 2 Ironmans, navigated spiritual transformation, and earned every scar along the way. This isn't a highlight reel conversation. This is real talk about grit, growth, and what it takes to keep showing up. So without further ado, let's welcome Chris Shurian to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Chris.
Awesome, Rich. I appreciate it. And, maybe we could talk about football for a minute. I don't know. My Broncos somehow, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on, but they're winning games and they're number 1 right now. So that's pretty shocking, actually.
It's amazing to see them come back the way they have. And with a young quarterback, you have a real young quarterback, good quarterback, though. Sean Payton leading at the helm, getting his second chance at life up there, doing great things. The Broncos, I think they're for real. I mean, I know a lot of Bronco fans probably still, like you just said, in shock and awe that now you're number 1 seed in the AFC. Number 1 seed in the AFC. We haven't said that since, I think, the early 90s. So
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, so that's an awesome thing for you guys. And there's a few other teams that are very surprising right now. Like I think they're called the Jaguars. They made it. They rode into the playoffs, I think, on an 8-game winning streak. So that's
the Broncos. Then the Broncos was one of those wins for them too.
Yeah, so, it's amazing the craziness, the tilt that we're in right now in the sporting world. It's like Mercury's been in retrograde this whole season.
Let's blame it on that. Let's do that.
It works for everything else. I figure let's throw it in here.
I mean, it does. I think our wives can use that as an excuse for some of the things that go on in our lives, but I don't know.
But it's always our fault. It doesn't matter about Mercury in that case.
Well, we're the ones that put it there. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We pulled it over there. We pulled it in.
No matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Chris, I gave the elevator pitch speech about you right there. If you don't mind, tell the Misfit Nation a little bit more about yourself, from as far back as you want to go to how we got here.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's a good story, Rich. In fact, it's funny that we talked about the Broncos to get this started, because I sometimes compare my entrepreneurial journey to being a Broncos fan. I mean, they win, right? They've won Super Bowls. They've been to almost as many Super Bowls as anyone else. And so that's great. There's lots of success going on there, but man, there's some lows. There are some lows. So I have a PowerPoint presentation I give sometimes, and I put up on the board and explain and show this graph that goes like this. And it's like, my entrepreneurial journey is like being a Broncos fan. So, but I was born in Southern California. I'm gonna go back a ways because it's kind of a fun little story. But I was born in Southern California. My parents divorced when I was 8, pretty young. Had a pretty interesting childhood. I was my father's oldest child, and my dad was tough. He was a military guy. Came out of the Army. He was a drill sergeant, which, when I hear those stories, I absolutely grew up with that. And he was hard. He was tough. He was old school, and you towed the line. If you didn't tow the line, boy, you knew it. And so, but when I was 12 years old, in Southern California, I would have gone to a high school that would have had probably 1,000 kids in my graduating class. And when I was 12 years old, my father decided to retire. He was actually in radio. He was a network news anchor for ABC Radio and KMPC, big AM stations back in the day. He decided to retire and move to Montana. I mean, somehow he was introduced to Montana, and he went up there to visit and came back and said, boy, we're moving to Montana. And there we go, 12 years old. And I ended up going to a high school. I ended up going to a high school where my graduating class was 34.
Oh my.
It sounds scary, but I did graduate top 30 of my class. So I got that going for me, winning. And we played 8-man football. We were 8-man state champs in the state of Montana. So, there's a lot of good opportunities that happen when you move from Southern California to small town Montana. So it was quite a journey. I'm not going to lie, quite a journey.
Wow.
Yeah. Just me and my dad. He left all the other kids with my mom, and I was the oldest son. I think he just felt like it would be a good fit for me. And it's funny when you're growing up, and when that happens to you, you don't really appreciate the long-term benefits from growing up in small town Montana. I mean, I did things growing up in Montana that I could have never experienced in California. You grew up with dirt bikes and snowmobiles and guns, and you could go out and shoot things, and you could go get in a little bit of trouble, and it was just a little bit of trouble. I mean, I was on a first name basis with the local sheriff. I mean, I went to high school and played football with his sons, so we were all friends. And you go out and get in a little bit of trouble, and he catches you, and he kind of inflicts a little small town sheriff justice on you and sends you on your way. And the last thing you wanted to do was, and sometimes he was cool and wouldn't tell your dad what kind of trouble you were getting in. So then that was even better. In fact, just a funny deviation. Small town Montana. We were surrounded by small towns, and so fighting was a thing. We'd go to Bozeman. That was our big city, where the home of Montana State University, which is playing in the national championship tomorrow night.
Right here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Down in Nashville. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's my college team from Montana. Although I'd be cheering for either one, Montana or Montana State. But you go to Bozeman and you meet up with the kids from the other small towns, and you scrap. I mean, it was just a thing. And our county sheriff decided that maybe we should harness that energy, and he started a boxing program. So we did boxing and we'd box our rival schools. So he had put us in a weight class that was somewhat, similar, and they'd throw you in the ring, and you would box these kids from these other small towns. So that's the kind of sheriff he was. But we're not talking about sheriff right now. We're just talking about my little life journey.
Yes. Well, that's part of it.
It is part of it. And so yeah, I graduated top 30 of my class, all region football, offense and defense, total stud. Obviously, I joke. If any of my high school buddies are watching this, they're gonna be laughing at me, but yeah, I had a great experience. And then moved back to California, graduated high school, went back to California because I felt like I need to get back there. There's not a lot to do in small town Montana. So I went back to California and started living my life. I started working for a company. I'm talking too much, Rich. This story can go on forever. How much time do we have? It's probably about bedtime down in Nashville, isn't it? Or you got to go hit the strip and go party or something. I don't know.
Well, that thing doesn't turn off. It's like Las Vegas.
It doesn't turn off. It doesn't turn off. So, it's funny. I started working for a construction company actually, and had a great experience working there. And then I, at some point in my job life, I had this, what Michael Gerber calls an entrepreneurial seizure, where I decided, man, I could go do this. I could go do this by myself and do it on my own. And I did. I jumped out, and I remember telling I think at the time I was married, and my wife kind of knew it was coming. She knew me well. And I thought I was going to go to school and get a degree and go down that path. But at some point I just realized that wasn't for me. So I jumped out, and I remember my very first truck. I mean, we had a car, and I went and did a job for my uncle, and he had this old beater Ford, and we traded for it. So I remember my very first work truck. I did some work for my uncle, and he traded me this old truck he had. And here's a funny story, a great story, but I got this truck from him, and I opened the glove box, and it had the original owner's manual in it. And inside the owner's manual, on the front page, was the name and address and the phone number of the guy who bought the truck brand new. And the day he purchased that truck was the day I was born.
Wow.
Yeah. So that truck was bought brand new on July 26, 1966. And I still have it. I still have that truck. I bought that truck about 40 years ago, and I still have it. Now it's a little bit different. I'm one of those guys who, had a few extra bucks to go in and restore his old truck and make it kind of a hot rod. And I still have it. And that's our little date night car. My wife and I'll jump in the old hot rod and cruise down Main Street and get a burger and a beer and cruise back. And it's cool. Super cool. But that was my first work truck. And that was my first venture into entrepreneurship. Just having that moment where I thought, man, I could do this, and I'll do it on my own. I could probably do it better, and there I went. I started, and that was boy, that was that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago, 40 some years ago.
It's 40 moons ago. All right.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And here I am, 40 some years later, and I've had some success, and I've had some challenges. I've had a few opportunities to lose just about everything I built. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. And in that whole recession of 08, 09, I was heavily invested in the construction industry. I owned a lot of real estate, owned a couple homes, was building spec homes, building custom homes, doing remodeling. And man, I was very leveraged when 08 happened. And it kicked me in the teeth. That was a tough few years for me. I know a lot of guys that got beat up pretty good when that happened. And, but I think there's a lot of, I survived. Obviously I survived, right?
Yeah.
I survived. And, but I learned a lot of lessons along that way, and Rich, I've always been very optimistic. I'm a very optimistic person and very persistent. I learned along the way. I don't take no for an answer. And I'm very, I get things done. I don't just sit back and wait. And that has been a huge blessing in my life. And it's been somewhat of a curse. Okay. I have persisted myself into some shitty situations. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I can say that. You've got the technology, you can bleep that out, or are we live actually right now?
We're live.
Okay. I'll clean it up a little bit. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But I've persisted myself into some pretty, some situations that I had to get out of. But being persistent and optimistic and heading into this 08 situation, I heard the grumblings, and there was some grumblings about the economy kind of struggling a little bit or having some problems. But not me, man. I'm not gonna hold back. I just kept going. I kept going. And so when all of a sudden banks started closing and the construction market just kind of dried up, just went away. I was left kind of standing there holding the bag. Now, fortunately for me, I learned some lessons along the way. One is that when I was making money at the time before that, I had toys. I had toys. I had a houseboat, a cabin. I had, cars. I had dirt bikes. I had snowmobiles. I had a boat. I had these things. But fortunately, I had paid cash for all those things. And I learned that lesson early on that's how I wanted to do it. So when my business and my income just went poof overnight, fortunately for me, I had some assets, that I could sell, and most of them were, kind of a fire sale, but I didn't have a bank I had to pay off, so I could afford to sell my boat for $20,000 less than it was worth, but sell it and have the money to support my family as I was rebuilding. So I was very fortunate in that way, and that's always a piece of advice I give young entrepreneurs is, it's great to enjoy life and enjoy your money. In fact, I encourage it. I think it's super important to live your life in a way and enjoy it along the way, and don't just sell your soul to the business or to your company. You have to enjoy life. So buy the toys, own the toys, do the things with your family, but man, be smart about it. Pay cash, because that also becomes a nice little savings account if you ever needed it. And so I was very fortunate in that. And then, there was time to rebuild. I came out of 2009, 2010, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I feel like I want to do something different. And that's about time I was introduced to this whole triathlon thing.
Different business.
That's a thing. I'm telling you. It started with me just running around the block. I was never a runner. I'm not built like a runner. I mean, I'm a big guy. I was always, lifting things and not running. That was ridiculous. And, but I started running because I wanted to get in shape. And there's this little run around the block. It's a 2-mile run. I leave my front door, run down the street, run around this little rolly hills block, and I come back to my front door in exactly 2 miles. So I remember when I first started doing that, I would walk up the little hill, jog down, walk up the little hill and jog down. And I would do that every day. And then I got to the point where I could run a mile without stopping. And then I got a point where I could run the whole 2 miles without stopping. And that was pretty awesome. And then I ran my first 5K. They have a little celebration in town here where they do a little 5K. Every little small town has a 5K, and I signed up for it, and I'd never run more than 3 miles. And so what the hell am I thinking? And I remember I felt like I went and signed up for the race, and they gave me my little number, and I pinned it on my chest, and man, I felt like I was running the Boston Marathon. But my friends were encouraging, and they pushed me around this little course, and I ran a 5K. And a couple of years later, I'm training for an Ironman. It kind of happened like that. I mean, just like that. I started doing the little running thing, and then my friend was doing triathlons, and they have, I don't know how familiar you are with triathlons, but they have different distances, right? You have the little sprint, and then the Olympic, and the half Ironman, the Ironman. So I started training for a little sprint triathlon, and I took swimming lessons. I mean, I knew how to swim, but swimming laps is a little different. So I took swimming lessons, and got a little bicycle and started riding my bike around the neighborhood. And I went and did my first little sprint triathlon, and man, I got that thing done. And and this is all happening while I'm still struggling with my career, trying to figure out what I want to do, what I want to be. I just was coming out of that 2008, 2009 mess. And so the running and the training was like this little outlet, and I could get up and run. It was like I'd start the day with a win. I had a little victory. I ran 3 miles, I ran 5 miles, I ran 6 miles. And so this was a huge, that was a lifesaver for me, getting into triathlon and training for an Ironman, because I was doing things that I never thought were possible. I mean, an Ironman is, you go out and swim 2.6 miles, you go ride your bike 112 miles, and then you run a full marathon. I mean, who does that? What fat guy who never ran in his life pulls off an Ironman?
Very small.
But it was a thing. It was a thing. And I hired a coach, and he gave me a workout. It was like, this is what you do today, this is what you do tomorrow. And for 6 months leading up to that Ironman, he coached me through this. He changed my mindset. He showed me how to do it physically. He helped me figure out I could do it mentally. And next thing you know, I'm out there doing an Ironman. It was so awesome. It was so great. It was so great. It was so great.
Which one did you do?
My first one was in St. George, Utah. which was it was the second year they did a full Ironman. So the first year I went down there and volunteered. I had some friends doing it. So I went down to volunteer and help out. And I sat and I by now I had done a couple short triathlons. And I felt pretty confident in that world. And I watched these people do this full Ironman. I started watching people and I thought, man, that guy is slow and fat. He's fatter than me and he's doing it. And that guy doesn't look like he should be doing Ironman. He's doing it. And I was like, wow, I could actually do this. And I went home and signed up, hired a coach. So St. George is the first one. And then 2 years later, I went up to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Beautiful, beautiful place. And I'll tell you what, the second one's way easier than the first one. So much easier. So much. I mean, your brain is like wrapped around it. And you're like, okay, I can do this. I mean, worst case scenario, I'm at least going to finish. I'm not going to die, right? I'm going to get through it. So that was awesome. That Ironman thing was, man, that was a lifesaver. That pulled me out of a lot of dark times and a lot of funk and a lot of, people telling me I sucked and I was a failure, working with the banks. I was on first name basis with a couple of banks, because I had just bought a bunch of land to do a subdivision. I just built a multi-million-dollar spec home that I was just sitting on. I mean, I just put a bunch of money into my own personal home. So yeah, the banks and I were on first name basis, and it took a few years to get through that. So this training was like this lifeline. It was like this. I was winning. I still had wins in my life, even when everything else around me seemed like a failure. I still could go out and run and compete and complete a 10K, a half marathon, a marathon, an Ironman, a half Ironman, whatever. And I could still feel like I was successful in some area of my life. So it was a huge, it was a great thing for me at that time.
That's outstanding. And you said earlier that you get an idea, you run with it, run head first into walls with it. I was going to ask you what your process was when you turned a vision into a business, a successful business. And I guess you said that you run like Barney Rubble into a wall, but what's the actual process you use?
Repeat that question for me, Rich. I want to think that through a little bit, how I'm going to answer that.
How do you turn your vision into a successful business?
Oh man, that's a good question, because I've had a few successful ones. I've had some good ones. I've always been really good at surrounding myself with people that know more than I do. Okay. And that's shocking, but I'm a learner, right? I love to learn. I love to learn and learn new things. I've never, like when I started my construction company, I mean, I didn't know how to do certain types of construction, but people would ask me, hey, can you do this for me? And my answer was always, well, yeah, I can do that. And then I'd go figure out how the hell I was going to do that. Right. That's just how my mind works. And so I was always learning. And like, for example, we opened a restaurant about 8-9 years ago as part of one of our projects. And I really wanted a cool restaurant. We were building this really great project. We were building a little resort. I was developing it. We were building it, and we had this restaurant space, and this restaurant space had to be cool. I mean, I needed to have something when people came to this little town on their vacation. I needed a place that was different, that was awesome, that people would remember that when they ate there and the experience they had. And so I tried to find a restaurateur that could do something cool in my building, and I just couldn't find it. So, let's open our own restaurant. So I went out and found a couple people who had experience in the restaurant business. I had this idea. I wanted this cool restaurant, but I wasn't quite sure what it looked like. And I went and found people that, number one, understood how to do a restaurant. They had experience in the restaurant business. They had done it for years, and they could teach me how to do a restaurant. Actually, they worked for me and they actually did the restaurant. But then they came to me and said, okay, Chris, what's this restaurant going to look like? And that's when I came up with the theme. I came up with this theme. I was into hot rods and Harleys. So I came up with this hot rod and Harley theme. And I'd seen another restaurant years before that the guy had hot rods in his restaurant on lifts. So of course, I went down that road and we created I had this vision for this great idea about this cool restaurant that featured hot rods and Harleys. And so, I had a couple hot rods. We put lifts in the restaurant. We put the hot rods on lifts. I put a couple Harleys on the wall, and we came up with this killer theme. And then with the help of my chef and my manager, we came up with this great menu. And, I named everything on the menu. I named some of the stuff after my kids, and we had like street rod tacos and supercharged steak salad. And, we had just cool menu items, and man, the food was great. And with the help of other people and with some imagination, we made it happen. And like I said, I wanted to create a place where people could just go in there and not forget it. And I'll tell you, people still talk about that restaurant. And then we opened a couple more down the road, and that's a whole nother story. Restaurant business is brutal. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's a tough business. But so I've always been one to surround myself with people and go out and learn it. And early on in my career, I'd been recruited to get into the insurance business, and I was recruited to become a property and casualty insurance agent. I worked for Farmers Insurance, and I did that for a little while. And it was really great. It was a great experience. But the guy who recruited me was a mentor. And I've always looked for mentors in everything I've done. But one thing he said is, look, Chris, if you want to be successful, you need to go talk to other agents that are successful and find out what they did. And I did, man. I'd go find the guys that were number one in the business, killing it, having great success. And I would walk in their office and sit across their desk and say, how did you do this? And how do I do it? And these successful guys would tell me everything. They were so awesome. They had this abundance mindset, and they would share, because they weren't worried about me being competition. They weren't worried about me taking business away. They just wanted to help. And so, man, I learned so much from that. And when I started the restaurant, for example, I went out and I knew people that owned restaurants. I knew people that were successful in restaurants, and I could sit down there and they could tell me. I would read books about restaurants. So yeah, I've been very fortunate. So whenever I've had a hankering to do something, I would find people that are doing it, and man, I have no problem sitting down and learning. So it's been great. I've been very fortunate that way.
Outstanding. We've got a question from the audience now as you were answering that one. This is from Selly But One. What failure taught you the most about who you really are?
Oh man. Okay, that's a good one. I've had a couple good failures. I'm not going to lie. The last failure I had. Okay, I'll talk about this. I talked about the restaurant, and it was part of a bigger project. Well, that little project got into trouble. I had leveraged myself. I had put so much into that thing, everything I had, and this is 5 years ago. I really leaned into that project, and this is one of those things where earlier when I said I persisted my way into some corners that I had a hard time getting out of. I got a little aggressive, got a little out in front of my skis, borrowed a little too much money, and made some mistakes along the way, hiring some people I shouldn't have hired, trusting some people I shouldn't have trusted, and it hurt. It came crashing down, and I lost everything in regards to that business. And so, it's funny because even at this point in my life, I'm still learning. I'm still learning things, right? And there was a point where I put a little too much faith in some people that worked underneath me, and people I'd hired to do a job, and I didn't watch them close enough. I didn't stay close enough to the process, and I kind of turned a blind eye to some red flags, and that bit me in the butt big time. So now, coming around full circle, where now people are hiring me to coach them one-on-one and to help them be successful. I talk a lot about that. I talk a lot about putting in controls in place where you are on, what's going on, and what's happening, and you set KPIs. And so that was an eye opener for me. I was probably a little overconfident in myself, I was a little bit big for my britches, and I let a few things get away from me. I forgot some of the basics, and that experience helped me come back to some of the basic ideas of running a business and having controls in place and keeping an eye on things, and don't ever feel like you're too big to be hurt. I mean, I thought I was pretty awesome back then, and man, that kind of bit me a little bit.
I bet it did. Sometimes, like you said, the big boys, the big corporations are too big to fail. When you're an entrepreneur, you're always battling to stay afloat and be ahead of the next thing. And when something bad happens, what's the next step for you? And I think one of the listeners had that question. As soon as you said, I lost everything, this question popped in. So maybe they're reading your mind. We'll see what this is. This is from at Fred's First Dad. How do you rebuild confidence after losing everything? Thank you, Fred's First Dad.
Well, I've realized that failure is temporary. It's always temporary. I've never let failure defeat me. And so going into it with that mindset that, look, this is just a moment in time, and I'm struggling and I've lost it. Right. Well, just knowing that it's temporary, and that's part of the journey. Like I said earlier, my entrepreneurial journey is like being a Broncos fan. The Broncos win Super Bowls. They go to Super Bowls. They've won a lot of games, but they've had a lot of really bad seasons. And, the Broncos fans and the Broncos ownership never quit. They don't just say, oh, we had a bad season, so let's quit. Well, I had some failures. I've had my teeth kicked in. I don't quit. It's just temporary. I pull myself up and keep going. And that's just a mindset. It's all about the mind right there. What
doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Oh yeah. And sometimes it hurts, man. Sometimes yeah. But you do. You pull yourself up and you keep going.
Yeah, learn those life lessons along the way. I had a question about the Ironman at St. George and Coeur d'Alene. Are they in rivers or are those lake swims?
Yeah, both those were in the lake.
They're in the lake, okay.
Yeah. And swimming in open water like a lake or ocean is way different than swimming in a pool. It's different. So it's a thing you have to practice and you have to do it to really get good at it. It's different.
And then especially when you're in a wave of other dudes and dudettes swimming out there and you're getting their chop all over you, you got to get used to that as well and not panic.
2,000 people in that race, and they all and it's like go. I mean, you're out there, and it's gnarly. It's gnarly, and that's also, man, I'll tell you what, that's a mind thing right there, and you have to be calm. For me, I learned that I have to start off slow and start off in fact, I would even stay back and let everyone go and kind of find some calmness and just get my breathing in a rhythm. And once I felt like my breathing was under control and I was in this rhythm, then I could just go and I'd pick up the pace. And then, I'm a decent swimmer. I'd finish in the top 25% of those 2,000 people, so that felt pretty good. But yeah, totally about just keeping your mind calm. Absolutely.
And not swallowing a lot of water. So that helps to the next portion of the race on the bike.
That's right.
Learning the transitions. How was that to train your mind to do the transition from swim to bike to run? Did you practice that, or did you just try, I'm going to go at this and just do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you do the smaller, shorter distance triathlons, that transition is critical. Like you can lose minutes if you're slow in transition. And so you practice doing it fast. So part of the event is not only learning how to swim, bike, run, but the transition. You come out of the water, you got a wetsuit on. You got to get your wetsuit off. You got to put on your cycling shoes. That's important to do it. And I was always pretty good at it. And we'd practice it. You'd practice it. And it's all about just doing it. When you get into the Ironman distance, taking a few minutes to transition from your swim to your bike isn't going to kill you, because you're going to be there for 12 hours. You're not going anywhere. So whether it takes you, that's just exercise for 12 hours, no big deal. But it's all about the practice. Like for example, when you come out of the water, what's really cool is on an Ironman event, they have wetsuit strippers there at the edge of the water. So you actually come out, and as you're coming out of the water, you're peeling off the top half of your wetsuit, and then you run up to these volunteers, and I used to do that, and you would lay on the ground and they'd grab your wetsuit and just rip it off, and then you'd get up and get jogging to your station. And so you had a lot of help that way. But you just learned it, you practiced it. But man, I'll tell you, the hardest transition is going from bike to run. You know, you're going from biking for 112 miles, like 5 hours on your bike, you know, pushing hard, using certain muscles, and you get off your bike and you start running towards the transition tent, and you can't feel your legs, your feet are numb, and it's crazy. And then you get your running shoes on, and there's people in the tent helping you, and you go out and you start running, and you're like running on bricks. It's like your legs are just like bricks, and it takes a while for your legs to kind of all of a sudden be like, okay, here we go. You know, we're with you. And then you just keep going. But yeah, it's practice, man. That's why doing those shorter distances and doing those, shorter triathlons just help you transition. And I don't know if you knew this, Rich, but you have the bikes that they use for Ironman competitions are geometrically different than like the cycles they use in like Tour de France. And you're at a little bit different angle. So you use a little bit more different muscles than you would running, which is part of what helps you, save your legs for the run.
Right. I did a sprint in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and I transitioned to the bike, no problem. Coming back from that, someone took my slot where my bike was and just dumped their bike on my gear. So I came in to get my bike, and I'm looking for my gear, and there's a bike there. So I just got frustrated. And like you said, the wobble walk. I was doing that wobble walk to try to get my legs back.
Yeah.
I'm angry now that I can't find my spot, and switch my eyes. I finally got my shoes, and I just run. And I actually found the guy I did. I pushed him out of my way. Because I know it's rude to push him, but I got him out of my way. So that's it, man. You're out of my way now, and I passed him and I finished. But the wobble walk is something I thought it was just me, but thank you for saying the wobble walk there. It was good. It's a horrible thing.
Yeah. And so you can imagine what it's like to ride 112 miles. Yeah, the wobble walk. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. Yeah.
All right. While we're making fun of ourselves with the Ironman, 2 more questions came in. This is from Ella Faint. What separates entrepreneurs who survive from those who quit? Great question. Thank you, Ella.
Yeah, that's it's right here, right in the mind, right there in the brain. It's all about that. It's all about mindset. I mean, you have to just go into this knowing that you're going to have your ups and downs, and you have to know that the downs are temporary. They're so temporary. And if you can pull yourself out of that, I mean, how many stories have we heard? I've been reading lately an old book called The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill is the godfather of all of this, motivational movement. And Thomas Edison, I mean, that was Thomas Edison's era. And I mean, how many times did Thomas Edison fail before he was successful with the first light bulb? Like 10,000 times. I mean, you just can't think. You just can't think that way. You gotta just train your mind to think, we're not going to quit, just temporary.
We're just going to keep doing it. Just thinking of Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's the same thing in business. You miss 100% of the successes you won't have if you don't take that chance. And that separates the good from the bad.
And just watch baseball. I mean, that's a great example of failure. I mean, I'm a Dodgers fan, so yay, all right. But Shohei Ohtani, the best baseball players in the world, if they're batting 400, they're the best batters in the world. And 400 means that out of 100 pitches or whatever, they missed more than they hit, right? They failed more than they had success. And in baseball, that's success. And in life, that's going to be how it's going to be too. You're not going to win everything. You're not going to make every shot. You're not going to hit every pitch that comes at you. It's just going to, it's just how it is.
Definitely. And you see guys in the Major League Baseball with a 250 batting average for their whole career. 250. So that means they do not get on base all the time. They have to have something, besides their good looks, their boyish good looks, they have something else going for them that keeps them on that team. And that 250 is what helps them out.
Yeah. I mean, guys that bat 300 for their career are studs, I mean, that means 70% of the time they failed. They missed it. So yeah, being in business, being an entrepreneur, oh man, It's all right here. You just got to know that it's temporary and you keep pushing forward.
Yeah, keep every time, every day you're going to have things that go wrong. We'll say this all the time in the Misfit Nation. Every day something's going to go wrong. Learn from it, but keep pushing forward and count the things that go right. Just learn from that mistake and count the things that go right. Stack the victories, and you'll see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I like what you said, that stack the victories. You know, owning a restaurant, I'll have to tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. And I used to, towards the end, the last couple of years, I used to reply to every review. Oh man, talk about a beatdown. I mean, I could have 100 positive reviews about our street rod tacos, that they're the best street rod tacos I ever had. Everything's great. And then you have the one person that says they're the worst, they're terrible. But it's so hard not to take that personal, right? And I have to remind myself, okay, hold on, Chris, your tacos are awesome. People love your tacos. I got one person here who, for whatever reason, doesn't like them. You know, you have to remind yourself sometimes of those victories. So what you just said is stack the victories. You have to remember them, and you have to tell yourself, look, I can do this. I can be successful. I'm not always a failure.
100%. That's what I'm trying to preach here to Misfit Nation. You're gonna have those days where it's a wave. You got to ride that roller coaster and just get to the other side and win the day. Don't worry about that inning you lost or that down you lost. Win the day, and you'll have a great life that way. Like you said, mindset fixes all that stuff. And when you said the review person, if you think of people that go crazy on social media, that when someone writes something on their post, they don't even know the person. The person will write something against them, and they go nuts on there, and they have to write back. Just scroll past it. Let it go. A better day.
My daughter-in-law is a social media influencer, and she's built a pretty good following, and she's doing pretty good at it. But it's funny when she comes over and talks about that one person that left a comment, about her, whatever. And I'm like, oh, Megan, come on, And she's like, oh, I can't believe it. That one stupid person that has to leave a stupid comment that doesn't have a clue about anything, okay, here's something funny. Every morning she makes herself a little iced coffee. She has a little machine, and one of her little things that gets a lot of views is every morning she has her little routine where she makes her little drink, and she makes it in a clear plastic cup with a little clear straw. And you can't believe how many people just pounce on her for, killing the environment because she's using a plastic cup. They're like, why aren't you using a coffee cup? And she's like, come on, it's recycled. I mean, give me a break. It's
every day.
Yeah, it's funny. It's hilarious.
All right, 2 more questions came in again.
Oh, nice.
This is from at Hump Day Rules. How do scars become an asset instead of a liability? Thank you, Hump Day Rules.
Ah, nice. So that's my new platform is Bootstraps and Battle Scars. That's the name of my program and the name of my podcast, actually. And I think scars are lessons that we've learned. They're reminders of the things we've learned along the way. And that's how I approach it. I've had failure. I mean, I've been sued by the SEC. I've been sued and lost a couple big lawsuit. I've lost my business. I've had cancer. I've had all these things, and those are all battle scars. And the best thing I can do is just, what can I learn from that? What can I learn from that moment, from that experience? And what can I do to move forward? And so now, fortunately for me, I'm in a position where I can give back, and I can help other people who are building their business. And everything I've experienced, the good, the bad, the ugly, are all to my benefit now. I can use those as tools. And every battle scar that I've received is a tool. It's a lesson learned that I can help somebody else avoid and possibly work through and be successful. So for me, man, the battle scars, lessons for sure. Absolutely.
Awesome. And we'll take one last question from the audience. This is from at Good Day Sunshine. What advice would you give someone starting over later in life?
Well, here I am. I know this guy. I would say to go into it with the same mindset as a young person would, that first of all, you can do it, keep your chin up and push forward. We live a lot longer now than people used to. And the days of of people that retire at 65 and just don't do anything or long gone. Nobody does that. Like we all know that we have to work and keep ourselves busy if we want to have a rich, long life. So for example, I'm 59 years old and I'm kind of in start over mode, right? And sometimes I can let that get me down because I can look at my friends who maybe did something differently, were a little bit more conservative, maybe we even had a job, a different place in their retirement and enjoying life a little differently than I am now. But you know what? That doesn't matter. I'm still here. I'm still going to build. I'm still going to do things. I'm still going to be successful. I get up in the morning. I'm motivated to get up in the morning and go to work. I'm motivated to get up in the morning and build and build and build. And so, the advice is just go out there and do it. Just conquer it. Make it happen. Take all, you're older, you're more wise. You've lived life. You have more experience. Put it to work and make it happen. There's no reason why there's nothing bad about starting over late in life. It's just what happens, and go for it. Don't let it hold you back. Just make it happen. But get that mind straight. Get that brain in the right place where you know what, I can do it, and it's going to be awesome.
Definitely. You said something earlier. You continue learning, and if we all continue learning, we'll be able to keep moving forward and keep doing things later in life. If you make yourself sedentary, like our grandparents were when they're 60s, and yet they did that mandatory retirement 60, 62-ish, and they just stopped, and you've seen them slowly deteriorate and go away. Whereas now we are living longer. There's people that are over 100 years old right now in our country and around the world. It's because they keep moving. They get up every day and they do something. They do something every day to make their wins, get their wins every day. And I think if we all keep doing that, we all will keep pushing forward. You don't have to stop just because there's a calendar mark that says this is when you're supposed to. Keep rocking your life and do the things you want to do.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. Absolutely.
Well, Chris, we have blazed through our 51st minutes here, 51 minutes right now. We've learned a lot. I know I have. MisFit Nation has. But we usually end with two questions. One's a softball question, and then one's more of a knuckleball. But the first one, the softball question, if anyone in the audience wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Oh, that's awesome. So we're just firing up a new website. It's bootstrapsandbattlescars.com. It's not up yet. So if you go and look for it, you're not going to find it. I think it's supposed to be up this week. But my personal email is chris@fundutah.com, fundutah.com. And man, I love emails. Anyone can email me. I'd love to talk. And once we get the website up and running, we'll have an easier way to get to me, and we'll have more of our assets and resources up there.
So I shared that in the comments. I shared your LinkedIn there as well.
Awesome.
Some people hit via LinkedIn a lot quicker. They think that's a much better way to do things. But either way, they have both your contacts right there. Easy to get to you, and maybe make that connection. Maybe have you on their shows, because a lot of our audience are fellow veteran podcasts. A couple of them right there in Utah, out there in Utah. It was just said Fund Utah. They're out that way. So maybe they'll reach out to you and you can spread your word to other shows as well.
That'd be awesome.
Now here comes the knuckleball question.
Oh boy, here we go.
You get your stretch on.
I'm ready. Here we go. Okay.
What's 3 things the MisFit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better people?
Oh man, I'll have to say, serve others. Do whatever you can to serve the other people. Be positive. Have a positive mindset. Just tackle life knowing that you're going to conquer and you're going to win. And be nice. Be nice to people around you. You never know what somebody's going through. You never know when you have this road rage situation, somebody cuts you off, maybe they're on the way to the hospital to visit their mom that's dying or something. So be nice. Just be nice. It's not that hard.
It doesn't cost anything to be nice. And
no, it doesn't.
I think our world would be so much better if people would learn that. You could be nice without being an ass all day long. And we'd probably have a lot less things going bad in the world. So, Chris, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And thank you for 3 great things there at the end. MisFit Nation, please reach out to Chris if you want to learn more about being an entrepreneur, or if you want to learn about the Ironman journey and the wobble walk. He'll teach you that as well.
The wobble walk. It's awesome. It's a thing you have to experience.
Yes, it hurts and it's fun at the same time. People do laugh at you at the end. But it's awesome.
Yeah.
They lose. Good. Chris, thanks again for hanging out with us tonight, and enjoy the rest of your evening out there in Denver.
Thanks, Rich. I appreciate it. And man, I love, this is great. I watched a couple of your shows before I got on, and you're doing a good work out there, my friend. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Have a great night.
Okay, you too.
A day with you tomorrow is 100% better than one without you. So remember, you're not alone. You will be missed. People around you will miss you. Reach into your wallet, that one-inch piece of paper, the 3 names that are on there. Call each one of them and say, hey, I need help, brother. I need help, sister. Because the day tomorrow with you is 100% better than one without you. Don't let something small, something temporary, turn to a permanent decision. Till next time, Misfit Nation, be humble, stay hungry, and you keep hustling. Because we are.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation Show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling. Because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.